afternoon, Malik. Thank you so much for joining us today at Albion and for being a part of our Black and Belonging series.
Thanks for having me. Don't get a chance to get to do this often, but when I do, I'm excited to get on this and do my thing.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Malik Zaire. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, Midwest guy. So we're all about the blue collar. We take our work hat and our lunch pail to work, and we get after it. So all about hard work and determination. Family oriented guy. I mean, I'm an only child, so I'm really close to my small family, and got opportunity when I was younger to be involved in sports pretty heavy. And being an only child, you just got this essence of got to make friends and work on relationships and being unselfish. So sports really helped me develop that, along with obviously the discipline and the teamwork skills, and growing that over time. And being that the team I played on, I was the best one that could throw the football. So I ended up being the quarterback that I ended up playing, obviously, for the rest of my career. But that's where it started. And being left-handed, I always knew it was a little different and different how I thought about things. So um, going through that, I ended up going to Catholic high school because of football was really good at that time there, and just the experience there, it really uh, changed my perspective coming from an all black neighborhood growing up, and then going to school all the way across town. So I got a chance to get in early with that cross of different dynamics. You in a whole different environment, different world in some settings, and getting the chance to get in early, but have a way in through football and kind of working those relationships as I got older. I kind of understood the dynamic between the two worlds, and end up going to get an opportunity to play at the next level at college for Division I football, and end up going to Notre Dame, which was at the peak of the what some would consider a PWI, but in this world we call it a higher education institute, a private college, one of the best Catholic institutes in the world, and on a football scholarship. So that was pretty big for me, and I ended up leaving high school early, graduated early to start that journey, and going there, I learned so much and got a chance to embrace an environment not only on a social level but on an economic level, where you're getting people from all over the world, and that you may be dorm mates with the CEO of McDonald's and would have never known. And the dorm is set up like summer band camp 2005, like real traditional. But you end up learning so much about people that grow up from all over, from very uh, different circumstances, and but it rubs off on you. So at that level you learn so much more about yourself, and how big the world is, and what things look like at a very high level. And those are the relationships I've established, and had a good football career there, and ended up finding my way in media. So I went to Florida for a graduate transfer year, and now you're going from upper echelon, considered high priority type of private institution, then you go to a public university in the South. It's a high public class, education, all that stuff, but it's a whole different dynamic than where I just came from. So that's even different, and seeing the perspective in that case, and it ended up leading me through media. Got a chance to do that, and that whole world is in of itself a little different. So uh, still working through that, but through all of that, you find me still being the black man trying to make it happen. So a lot of stuff trying to come down the pipe, but it's good. It's good for me.
I think it's very interesting when you first go from these two different worlds, like that shock factor. So can you kind of touch base on how that was for you, especially because it's not that far from your hometown, and talk about like how you felt when you just came into this whole different world that wasn't necessarily too far from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think football and sports really helps break down that wall of or that barrier of trying to understand what's going on with the two different worlds. I think a lot of it is just you just don't know what you don't know. So going into a area where I'm leaving a predominantly black area that's where I'm from, that's like me, and transitioning to a school that's a little more mixed and then predominantly more white, you kind of just see uh, what in nature I feel like is obvious. People that look like and think alike and grow up around the same places obviously stick closer to each other, but there's a respect level that also comes in. You don't have to like everybody, and a lot of times um, you don't have to like everybody to do business with them. So there's a certain relationship that you kind of understand in terms of boundaries, and you kind of respect it. Anytime you're going into somebody else's house, you respect their rules, and even if they aren't what you're about, that's okay. That's not your house. You know what I mean? If you don't like it, you don't have to be there. But if you're gonna be there, you got to find a way to make it work for you, and staying focused on things that are important to you, and doing things that can help you and your family or your situation is something that should be in everybody's mind. But when you get in sometimes in those environments, you lose yourself and fall into kind of the worldly things that people tend to cross paths with.
Exactly. What implicit biases have you faced on and off the field?
Well, I just think a lot of it is just people going with a predetermined assumption of what they think you can do.
Mm,
A lot of times, those stereotypes of your influences from your environment or what you're watching or what places you're involved in. A group ideology kind of takes over your assumptions of people, and a lot of what I really believe is you got to think for yourself. And when you really think for yourself and you listen to the voice inside your own head, because that's, I think anybody is crazy if you listen to things that aren't what you're talking to yourself as, because that's who's going to tell you the truth. But the biases that you face are things that you get into when you're not really prepared for what you're going into. If you're going into a situation without a goal, anything can affect you because you have no direction. So obviously there's going to be things that come into your path that challenge. You got to look at it as challenges, because we all here on an experience of learning something different. So for me, people are going to put you in a situation to start, but you can always use your attitude and your effort to use that in a positive way to make best for you. It's not going to be best for anybody else but for you. So that's why when you hear people in their circumstances, yeah, it sounds crazy for you. It's not for me because I can't be in your shoes. But, if I follow some of the same things you did, I will be in the same place. Right. So you got to do a lot of trial and error and being vulnerable in situations, but you got to protect yourself as well, I think. And that becomes knowledgeable. It goes back to knowing yourself. If you don't know yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to have great discernment when you're having situations and circumstances you find yourself in where you don't know how to protect yourself. So there's going to be a lot of roadblocks and things that you'll face in situations of like PWI schools or places that aren't predominantly with people that look like you. But there's always that respect that comes in of what value can you add to the situation. So the thing that worked best for me was my value in the situation of where I was at. I knew I was good at sports. I knew I wasn't a dummy, right? So staying out of trouble and being a good person can get you a far way. It may not open all the doors up in the world for you, but maybe not every door open is good for you either, right? So you have to find that bias is only what you see it as, but there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? So if you don't like that way, there's a thousand other ways to get that result that you want. So for me, a lot of it was trial and error, but I also understood at the same time that not everybody's going to like you and not everybody's going to want to see you succeed. So if people can get over that, I promise you things will go a lot smoother in your life because you can start focusing on yourself and knowing what's important for you.
exactly. What's the most important thing that being part of a team taught you?
Being a part of the team taught me, especially from a leadership position, is that you lead in different ways. Obviously, you want to have your own lead by example, but not everybody on your team, is the same. So you got to find a way to have that common goal be effective for everybody. It means something for everybody. So for me as a quarterback, what I learned through team building was that we want to win the championship, but it's going to take that everybody buy into it. So buying into the program and getting guys on the same message from a leadership standpoint helped me a lot because you got to learn how to talk to people.
Mhm.
And communication is a huge thing because body language and the things that are unsaid is what really turns a lot of people off a lot of the time. So understanding yourself and how you approach and talk to people affect a lot of how they respond to you. So being in a team, you got to know that they're not going anywhere. So you got to find a way to make it work. And, you go to all the extents of being creative, but a lot of it requires you to be vulnerable. A lot of people have too much pride. So anytime in a team setting, yeah, you should have pride in your work and what you do, but you got to really be smart on how is what you're doing affecting everybody around you, because you're not a great leader or you're not a great teammate, in my opinion, until you can evaluate the people that you're affecting, right? If everybody around you sucks, that means you suck. There's nothing that you do good in a team setting. But if what you do makes other people around you better, that's the most important thing you can learn in a team setting. And that's what I took from it and was like, put that and apply that to my life. When you can add value for other people and service to other people, the team's always going to do good and you'll always receive those individual benefits that you will.
Awesome. So, how would you say your mentors helped you in developing you as a leader?
I think a lot of it is just experience, my ability and opportunities to be in a lot of different levels of places, whether it be from growing up where I came from, all black neighborhood, just we didn't really see too much diversity, to going to a mixed school where it was half and half and playing football across town, where it was predominantly white, but growing up in a predominantly black football team, and then going to a super rich school where it was the one percenters of the world, to, going to a public university where it was some rich people, but there was some really people that had to get jobs. I went to a school where 90% of the kids didn't get jobs because they were just going to school, but then I went to a public school. 90% of the kids had something else they was doing because they had to, hustle to get through school. So, being in so many different levels of groups of people and environments all over the country, for instance, it broadens your perspective. So you gain a huge perspective on empathy for others, and you just learn how to move in different and operate in different spaces, which a lot of times is a huge block for us as a community, because we don't know nothing outside of those city limits, right? We only know so far out of our sphere of influence that we don't get to see the bigger picture. But seeing the bigger picture allows you to have better communication skills to move in a better way.
Empathy and grace, that's what we need more of right now, for sure.
Mhm.
How did you navigate crossing cultural lines as a player?
As a player, a lot of it, is if you do your job, it stands for a lot. In a team setting and in football in particular, it's a result-based business, which is good because that trains you for life. I was surprised that going from sports to kind of the real world is definitely different on urgency, doing your job, being on time. Those are the things that if you can just do that alone, you're gonna be able to get a lot of places because you're doing your job, right? Because it's about the bigger picture. If you can't do the things, and it's all what I'm referring to are things that are self-driven. If you can't do the things that you're supposed to on just a responsibility level, it's hard to do anything because you hard to deal with. You just hard to deal with. So if you're not hard to deal with and you handling your responsibilities, you're gonna get to where you want to go, right? I think a lot of times people look at other people's perspectives and say, "Oh, they didn't let them do this." Well, maybe they didn't want to get there, right? Or maybe that wasn't, you know, maybe it wasn't meant for them, but that doesn't mean that they didn't enjoy the experience that they got out of it, right? So
Mhm.
for me, crossing cultural lines was just about doing my job, and the rest really would take care of itself. I think anytime you go into, I call it enemy's territory, only because they not looking out for your best interest all the time, is that don't give them no reason, right? If you giving people reason, that's going to stop you right then and there. So if you don't give no people no reason, and you taking care of what you're supposed to do, then you can keep everything in front of you, is what I'm saying. You can't have everything attacking you from all sides because there's no direction, right? But if you can handle what you're doing and secure what you got and you can move forward, it's easier to see those things that become a problem that you can handle with your full attention, right? So in crossing that quote unquote cultural lines, a lot of it is that the easiest way to stop losing, I mean, the easiest way to start winning is to stop losing, right? So don't shoot yourself in the foot before you get going. But once you can handle your responsibilities and do what you're supposed to do, crossing cultural lines is just more about facing what's in front of you and maneuvering. If you can't handle what you can handle, it's going to be hard to do anything.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's definite. I tell my kids that all the time. Like, you are unworkable with. I can't work with you.
Exactly. Exactly. So you gotta be able to work with people.
What healthy communication practices do you think can help us better understand cultural differences?
Um, I think being more vulnerable, and more understanding. I think a lot of times there's not a lot of empathy that goes on because, most people aren't interested, right? So things that people may have as a tradition or things that people may do in their family settings may be something that is unknowing to the particular group, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to respect it, right? So a lot of what you have to be able to do is respect people of who they are, because you can't really make them what you want to be. But that goes back to being vulnerable. If you're not open to understanding at least somebody else's perspective, it'll be hard for you to grow as a person, and it only makes you more scared of that other person because you're only fearful of somebody that you don't understand, right? So not that it has to be forced, right? You don't want to force people to understand, but there's obvious things when you're working in different diverse groups that going in, you have to know that being open is a key element into being able to work with each other. So it takes time and it takes a lot of trust, but a lot of it is you can only control so much. So as long as you're able to be that person that you're supposed to be, and like we talked about, handling your responsibilities, a lot of it takes care of itself.
I always tell people sometimes we're so quick to listen to respond instead of listening to understand, and that would just help solve so many issues. As a Black man in sports broadcasting, what would you say is your biggest hurdle?
The biggest hurdle for a Black man in sports broadcasting is understanding that the arena of sportscasting is a small percentage of Black people. So uh, and the other thing that makes the job so hard is that these opportunities are few and far between, because some of the people that are in these jobs last for 10 plus years, and you grew up watching a lot of these guys. So it's a very, very niche arena, because one, is not many that get into it, and then the ones that are staying are like career positions. It's like being in government. You may hold that position till you die. You never know. But uh, the good thing is that as a Black man, if you can get in and do your job and always update your resume and polish your technique, you'll find a nice career to make a long career out of it. But it's such a niche, like we talk about, that it's so hard to really have a plan or prepare to get into something like that. Like I said, I was very fortunate having enough experience with the right things falling in place for me to be able to get the job. But being in it now, you see so much of it is a very family oriented structure, but you know, it's a family, so it's hard to get in. But if you in, kind of thing.
That sounds like higher ed.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Once you're in, we're in.
Once you in, but getting in is hard. It's hard to get into the treehouse.
What racial stereotypes would you say that players face on the field?
Racial stereotypes that exist on the field, I think a lot of it is just it stems from competition. So guys, we like to fight, we like to get into it. We're physical people, but when we lose, it brings out the worst in some people. Obviously, things that can cross over racially when it comes to in the field of play usually come from embarrassment, or you upset that you may have lost, or certain things like that, or when you're facing a team that has never played the opposing team, meaning like black players never play white players or vice versa. You get that we don't know anything about who we playing, and this is what we assume, right? In the field of play, like in the field of play, when it happens, you see sometimes, like you saw from the NFL, the Mason Rudolph and Miles Garrett situation. I honestly believe if it stemmed from a competitive standpoint, guys getting heated in the heat of battle. Some guys get more offended than others when they lose, and that's how they handle it. So I think it's more of a testosterone uh, cause for when you see it in the midst of the field. And some people, that's just how they are. Like I said, I don't believe racism is the biggest battle for black people in America specifically. I think it is what we sometimes see as our biggest villain in the world and the biggest boogeyman in the world. But I think there's bigger issues that we should focus on that will help us get to a better position for ourselves. Because you can't make everybody like you, and that's just what it is. And it's okay if they don't like you, but it's a respect thing that has to exist to coexist.
And what advice would you give to a student who said like they went through some type of racial incident on the field or while they were playing the sport? How would you tell them to navigate in that space? Or if you've gone through that yourself, if you'd like to share about that, that would be great.
Yeah, I honestly believe that the what has to happen is for you to deal with it as a man yourself. I think a lot of times when you don't handle it yourself in a way as a man, because it's a disrespect in that sense, whether it be talking to the person or dealing with it how you deal with it. I think as a person of color or somebody that goes through this type of racial discrimination, is really best to understand that the arena in which you in, whenever you're in enemy territory or whenever you doing something of a majority of people that's not your own, you need to expect all types of things that can happen like that. So a lot of it, I would tell them, don't be surprised, because there's never been a point in history where that hasn't occurred, or that hasn't been an issue, or something that's been put out there as a problem. So it's not the first time, it's not the last time. So I don't think it's something to look at as like, oh my gosh, I need to be on CNN tomorrow talking about it. I do think it needs to be either deal with it as a man and you handle your business. And other than that, you have to always remember galvanizing with your own people is always going to make it more comfortable for you. You have to be able to find yourself in more environments that are with like-minded people. I think anytime a person wants to get somewhere in life, you have to surround yourself with high quality people. And anytime you have a support cast of high quality people, stuff like that really rolls off your shoulders. You don't really see it as the thing that's going to stop you from advancing in life, because you see the bigger picture. So that's what I would tell people. Don't be surprised. This is not the first and the last time. Either handle it and then get back to your support system, or let it go, because you know, let it go in the sense of don't put yourself in a compromising position where you lose everything, obviously, but handle it the best way you can handle it. But just know that this is not no phenomenon. This is how it is when you in other people's house. If you don't want to be in people's house, leave their house, go to your own house, right? So until we're ready to do that, I mean, hey, what do you want me to say? They would never. I mean, hey, that's what it is.
What was your experience navigating at a PWI?
You just know what it is. You, like I said, you got to have a goal in mind. You got to have things that you uh, go there for. If you go in there just to say you went there and yada yada, I think it's going to obviously be a harder way to navigate because it's not built for you to just be there doing whatever. That's just what it is. Most PWIs are not built for somebody that's not in that arena to get the maximum experience as a person it was created for. And that's just what it is. It's like if you're all girls school as a guy, if I went over there, I wouldn't get that full experience because it's not built for me, right? And that's what it is. So if you're gonna go to a situation like that, then you need to have an idea of what you're going there for, what you want out of it, and have things in that reminder is that it's like you a a secret agent. You going in there into the house to kill the bad guy. You just want to go and kill the bad guy, get out. You don't want to go in there and just start spraying everything. You may hit walls and other people that ain't intended. You got to be very intentional when you're going into those things because that's how you, one, stay the safest, and two, get your job done. Because if it was really up to you, I would assume that you would just go somewhere with people like you if the opportunities were the same. That's just how I would. I mean, that's how I would see it. So if that's not the case, then you need to know that you're going to somebody else's house. So you got to respect their rules and know what you're going in there for. And if you don't like it, you don't have to go. It's not nobody's forcing you to do anything.
It's again the rules of if you don't want to be at somebody else's house, go to your own house.
Yeah, and obviously the houses may not be the same sizes, but it goes back to what's the goal for you. If
Right.
you if you go in there just to see size of houses comparisons, then you never gonna be happy, because it ain't your house will never be as big as their house. So is that important or what's important of what you going in there for? Are you going in there to learn how to get a big house and build a bunch of big houses? Then that's the information that you need to be focused on, right? And then you leave out of that and then do your thing. But some people, like when they go in there, they want to rent out a room and never come out. And then what do you expect? If your water ain't working, you chose to live there, So I have nothing much to say to people that choose to stay and have their own rooms there because, I mean, what do you expect? It wasn't meant for you to be there anyway. So if it ain't working, ain't going right, the bills getting raised and lowered and all this type of crazy stuff, you chose to live there. Other people, I think, is smarter if you go in there, learn what you can learn, stay for a couple of days, see how they living, and then you go do and create your own thing. So that's kind of the idea, but that's just where we are right
How did Martin Luther King's mission and vision resonate with you?
now. I think he was a great black man that uh, did a great job of gaining some identity for the community at a time where a lot was going on. I think he's a man of sacrifice. Obviously he sacrificed his life to fight in something he believed in, and uh, as a black man, that's inspiring because it just shows you how serious you got to be over something that you want against a bigger giant, and that you can't fear death, for instance, for fighting for what you want to what you feel like is right. And I think that's just the biggest thing that Martin Luther King showed black people is that, if this is really worth it, then it's worth dying for it. And that's what his belief and what he thought he was trying to do. Uh, and he didn't give up on it through fear or intimidation. And he was willing to go the distance for it. And you can just see maybe he not have reached his goal, but that lasting impact that he gave to everybody else, um, and to be remembered for the rest of history. Really, it just shows that what happens when you don't, or you're not afraid to do what you feel like is right, even if it means sacrifice, which is hard. A lot of people scared. A lot of people
True.
scared.
True.
I mean,
Like you said, a lot of people like they're like, all right, I'm here to do my job. Once
yeah,
I'm in. I'm not going to do nothing else. And I think being an advocate and standing up and saying, no, that's not right. You know what? I know that this is my house. I know that this is your house, but this ain't the way it's supposed to work. I think that's where it can get murky waters, where it's like, we're not too sure if we want you here anymore.
exactly. So, uh, I think that's just the biggest step that we as black people have to make in general, is that step over the line of being afraid and not afraid. That courage line. Um, if you talk about levels of frequencies and levels of consciousness, courage is the thin line between freedom and not freedom. So I think, uh, once we can get that ability to take that step over that courage line, we would see the true power that we can have as a collective. So, until as long as we afraid of everything, then we're gonna keep getting what we get.
So, how could students have more courage to speak up for themselves at a PWI?
It starts with just knowing yourself. So you got to know what yourself is telling you, what you feel is right and wrong. I think a lot of times we fight that feeling of, is this really right? Is this really good for me? Am I really rocking with this? I think a lot of times we think and let outside of ourselves make the decisions for ourselves. And so that's where it starts. And you'll know literally by following your heart what you feel is right or wrong for you. And when that happens, you need to speak on it. Um, Whenever when you're fighting against it, when somebody's telling you to do something or you're hearing something that it doesn't sit right with you initially, and you just tell yourself, oh, that's just how they think, or, oh, whatever, whatever. That's what you need to do to speak on, because that's the courage you're going to need to make any relevant change, because that's what you're going to really be behind. Things that you don't really feel in your heart, you're not really going to fight for. But when you fight against yourself, that's just, like we said, defeating you before you get started on winning. So it's very important that it starts with your heart. Things that you know and feel like it ain't right, don't fight against it. Realize it and see how that can best help you change your situation.
What advice do you have for any up and coming athletes?
The best advice is communicate with everybody you can that is can or can be a benefit of you in that moment, or just even in life. I think it's important that you don't shut yourself off to only talking to people that you see at the football facility, your teammates, your coaches, whatever. Talk to those people in those classes, talk to your professors, talk to the people you live around, because this is the rare opportunity in your life where you have access to that many people in such a small space that you have something in common with. Um, that's going to help you a lot make that transition out of college, because a lot of kids, more than not, don't really know what they want to do right out of school. The best thing you can do when you get right out of school is refer to those people that you've had relationships with during college, and 9 times out of 10 that's going to lead you in that direction to help you get started on being an adult outside of the school realm. Um, Going in also, man, just enjoy living in the moment. One of the rare times as well where you get to really focus on having fun in a place where you get to do what you want around people that you get to grow around. So um, don't waste the opportunity doing something that you've heard before. So everybody hears the things going into college before you get there on what's cool to do. Because nothing new is under the sun, but you want to be able to experience the most you can out of college, and that's gonna help you, man. That's just some tips.
And thank you so much for joining us in Albion for this series, all the way from California.
Heard you. Always, that's what we do out here, man. We spread the love everywhere.
And can you tell us how our students can get in contact with you if we have any questions or just would like to follow up with you?
Holla at me, Malik Zaire, anywhere on social media. They shutting people down, so I think I'm straight. But I'm on Telegram. Hop on Telegram. I'm on Gab. Uh, reach out to me on my email, luckylefty.mz@gmail if you have any questions or you want to work on something. I'm a pretty open guy. Don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always here.
Thank you so much, Malik.
Thank you. Thank you. What's the goal? What's the goal of it, I guess? Like, what are you
So,
guys trying to get accomplished?
so the goal of the series was I created the series because I really wanted to give platforms to people that I knew that I felt could really impart wisdom and be knowledgeable for our students of color, right? There's so much programming that happens on our campus, but how much of it is relevant to our students? And like a lot of the things you said,
Like 2%.
right. And then think about it like, how many people are close to their age that can actually relate to them who are just out of college or not too far removed, where they can tell them, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. I'm Black and I look like you. And you want to know what? Like, this is where you could be at, but these are the hurdles you're going to face. And let me give you some mentorship and guidance.
Yeah.
So, Malik, if you want to touch base a little bit on the importance of mentorship and how our students can benefit from that.
Mentorship is very important, but the right mentor is even better because not everybody is going to fight the same fight you are for yourself. I think at any point when you're getting into a mentorship program, you want somebody that's going to at least meet you at 80% of what your goals of what you want to accomplish because nobody's ever going to be 100 meaning nobody's ever going to be perfect. Nobody's ever going to solve these answers for you. The only thing you should really aspire to get from a mentor is that inspiration or those right steps or that right piece that you can't put together yourself. They can put you in a position where if you just do this, and this, and you whoop de whoop, you can be in the right spot. And so mentors are also, your live books. These are the people that you're gonna get that 400 pages of knowledge from in a 30-minute conversation, depending on the right mentor you're talking to. But those interactions are also helpful for you to have that subconscious of, okay, I can keep these three little words in mind as I'm going through my day. Great mentors are ones that just drop their advice and keep it pushing only when you need it. The worst people to give advice or advice that you didn't ask for. If I didn't ask for nothing, don't be telling me what I need to be doing. So um, be open to mentors only when you're open yourself, when you're honest with yourself. If you ain't serious about going nowhere, don't be asking people advice on how to do things or you need their help on da 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 because you're wasting their time and you're wasting your own time because you're not being honest. So mentors are best used when you can't quite formulate exactly how you want to get there, but you got the pieces. And the right mentor is going to set you up in a way where they're going to be that coach on the side. A coach don't score touchdowns. Remember that. So you always got to be the player in your own field. The right mentor is going to coach you in the right way, but they're not going to do it for you. And the inspiration that you should get um, from these mentors are that's that last little piece, not the biggest piece, but that last little piece that I need to get me on my way. So they're very important. Like I said, if you're not really into books, get you a bunch of mentors. That's volumes and values and knowledge of different things that you can pick up on your journey. Remember, this is your journey, not their journey. It's nobody else's journey. So um, it's no different than hitchhiking along the road. You want help. You don't need people to do it for you. So um, it's very important to have mentors to keep you on task too, because a lot of time we don't have a support system, and support systems are important because that's that physical representation of somebody being there for you and being in your corner. Um, a lot of it has to be internally driven, but not everybody's at that same level. So having a support system is crucial because you can't be 50 different places at one time. So if they're able to either hold your attention in the right place or add those things to help you stay in tune with yourself, those are things that's going to help you along the road of the challenges that you're going to face. So, mentors are there for support. They're there for that good coaching and advice. But don't lean on them as thinking that they'll do something for you, because it just never works that way.
Thank you.